Eric, thanks for coming to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
That's a pleasure. Let's try to share as much value as we can. I've been looking at your profile on LinkedIn and I did my homework a little bit. So you started in PHP, I think, if I'm good, like near early 2000, right?
Yeah, I've worked in other language before,
Right.
but I got in PHP, I'll say around mid 2000, around 2005.
And how did you get in PHP? What did you like about it?
I It's actually happens like that. I work for a company that bought another company,
Mm,
and they had code in Perl and PHP.
gotcha.
So at first I worked a lot on the Perl code,
Yeah.
and then we moved everything to PHP.
Okay. The Pearl time.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Perl.
No, I did some of it too. It was at my sysadmin time, like I was sysadmin before,
yeah.
so I've played a lot with Perl, obviously. But yeah, cool. And after that, so the company got acquired, and then you got into PHP, and that was probably at PHP 4 at the time.
Oh, yes, PHP
So
4.
when PHP 5 came in with all the classes, and that must have been like
Yeah, so PHP 4 has had an object model, but that wasn't very good, and we were
right.
coming from C Sharp, which were strongly object
Yeah.
oriented. So it was kind of weird PHP 4, but when we get in PHP 5, that's where actually we push Perl aside
Right.
and start
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
everything
yeah,
in
yeah.
PHP.
Gotcha. And so it's what 15, 17 years now that you work with PHP.
About 15 years, yeah.
So we can say you're a senior.
I can see I'm a senior, hopefully.
Yeah, it's not like because we see a lot of people after 2, 3 years that calls themselves
Yeah.
seniors, which we had a whole podcast about that.
Yeah,
I think that was with Nick Kyler, right? Yeah, we had a long podcast about it because a few guys that passed by here who had 3, 4 years at the fifth was like, okay, I'm super senior, but the one thing that they all miss is the experience that comes with it. You might have the knowledge, but you don't necessarily have the experience.
You didn't make the mistakes.
That's it. You didn't fuck up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You did not fuck up enough, right?
The years is not everything, though.
Yeah.
I've read a lot. You could have 10 times 1 years of experience.
Oh yeah,
Because if you do the same thing over and over and
of
over,
course.
so you have to touch a lot of things. You have to
Yeah.
make a lot of mistake, and
Yeah.
then you get to be a senior.
Yeah. What did you find to be the biggest evolution of PHP over the past 10, 15 years?
It's Composer, no doubt.
Yeah.
Composer made everything easier, having dependencies, pulling them instead of rewriting everything all the time or finding them on PHP classes.
Yeah.
So yeah, Composer, and then PHP 7 with the speeds and the RAM improvement. That was a lot.
Yeah. Exactly. What are you a framework guy? Like, do you work with framework? Do you like that?
I I'm not a I work with framework, yes, because I don't like rewriting everything.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big guy on framework. I don't know. Where I work, we have some Zen, some Symfony, some Laravel. We play with everything.
Yeah.
So I'm not the best with framework, but I think they're useful. I do mostly backend, so I
Yeah.
don't. So I don't play a lot with front end frameworks.
Okay. So, but when you have, let's say, a new project to work on with obviously lots of backend, are you are you the old school guy who's gonna be like, no, I like to code my own thing, or no, I'm gonna use that framework, like you said, to not rewrite everything.
Yeah. No, because I did that writing everything, and it's a pain to maintain, and it's buggy, and it's slow, and
Exactly.
so I'll grab a framework. I'll see whatever I need depending of
Yeah.
what kind of project it is, but I'll grab a framework. So you have router already done. You you have everything you need,
Yeah.
and then you can pull stuff from other framework, from other library. I'm not there to rewrite everything. I'm there to
Yeah,
deliver value for a company. So the quicker I can do there,
exactly.
the better it is for the company.
Of course, of
So,
course. Yeah, it makes sense. Are you more like Symphony, Laravel, Zen? Because I saw you've been certified at some point in Zen.
on Zen, but it's a PHP,
Okay.
so it's a long time ago. So it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
PHP 5.3.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I used a lot of Zen. Today we're moving to Symfony.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I I don't do the type of project that's very good for Laravel, so
Okay,
I've
yeah,
played
yeah.
with it, but I don't do Laravel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what makes it like when you say the type of project that's not good for Laravel because they're very similar, right?
Yeah, but Laravel is very opinionated.
Yeah.
If you want to do some rapid prototyping, if you want to do websites pretty quickly, Laravel is perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
When you try to do something that doesn't follow the rails of Laravel, then you start fighting with the framework. And then something like Symfony that allow you a little bit more freedom is easier.
Yeah.
It's longer to start, but in the long term, it's easier to use.
Mm. Yeah, and the how's it called? Um, the support is longer too on versions.
Yeah.
I remember asking a few guys what was the major difference between Laravel and Symfony, and they were mentioning there was basically two core things. I think I forgot the name, but basically it's still very similar. But obviously, Symfony is much stronger, and supported much longer too on the versions.
Yeah. Laravel come with a big ecosystem, so you
Yeah,
have queues worker, you have they have their own Vagrant VM
yeah,
hosted, I think.
Homestead, yeah,
So Laravel, if you want to stay in that ecosystem, you have everything, so you can develop very quickly.
yeah. No, exactly, exactly. And now because I saw you've been tech lead for the past what 6 7 years now.
Yeah, something like that.
So you've been dealing with teams, and does that mean that you coded much less and managed much more than before?
I don't manage. I'm not a team lead, so
Okay.
I'm there for technical decision. But yes, I code much less than I
Yeah.
used to do because I have a lot of helping the people. So they have questions, they need help. They come to see me.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of that to do. I have anything. I have to decide how we're gonna build things. I don't decide that all by myself, but I have to be in all those meetings all the time
Yeah.
about the architecture, about how we're gonna do stuff. Whenever there's a critical issue, it's always follow me because
Yeah.
I'm gonna fix it pretty quickly. But I get some special project. Everything that has to do with security, with performance, will fall on me. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. You're strong with security, right?
I really love security.
Yeah.
So as security for me is something that it's a given. You need to think about it whenever we develop for the web. Where I work, we work with gift cards and loyalty cards, so there's money involved. So security is very important, and I've been moving more and more tracking frauds, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to detect fraud and react to fraud
Mm.
automatically, that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and on my personal time, I'm trying to learn hacking.
Mm.
So I've been for years I've been interested in security, but on the
Yeah.
protection side, and now I've been trying to play with CTF online, capture the flags, trying to act, learn how to hack,
Yeah.
because it's really hard actually.
It is.
I've been working on protection for a long time. I know what I have to protect for, but try to do a skill injection other than the basic one, it gets hard pretty fast.
And it's very interesting what you're saying because most developers, programmers try to make it secure, but most of them never act anything. So you're trying to protect something that you don't really know how to actually hack it.
Yeah.
So how can you actually make it very safe, right? Or try to make it very safe, other than do the best practice and keep server up to date and versions up to date and patch and all of that until you really I like what you're saying because until you really try to do it and hack your own thing, it's hard for you to know, are you really making it sicker?
Yeah.
That's something. That's a thing here that I've been for some of our own projects that I was interested in actually try to hack it. I want to know, because I don't want to wait that we actually get hacked. Yeah,
But it's hard if you never hacked anything.
that's it.
But the good thing is they know the code, so they know the weakness. But
Yeah.
if they know the weakness, hopefully they fix them. But when you start and you go, there's some site online where there's go to this, try SQL injection on that page, and it gets harder and harder. And I know the theory, but doing it, it's long and it takes patience too.
Yeah, they're good. They're really good.
Yeah.
And when I was more active on the Linux administration, sysadmin type of, I've tried a little bit on my own, servers and stuff like that, and said, man, I would be a terrible hacker.
Yeah, same for me.
It's like you really need to understand the real. You need to have the deep knowledge about networking and about servers and about all those protocols, and it's complicated. It's really it's one thing in it. I mean, it's just a one thing. Like it's hard for someone to be a great programmer, then a great sysadmin, then a great hacker, and it's a carry itself.
Yeah, you cannot do everything and be good at everything. So.
Exactly. But for you, how did you manage to learn security and apply security and try to make things as secure as possible over the past years?
So I read a lot.
Yeah.
I read books, blogs online. So I read everything I can about security.
Yeah.
The basic is always the OWASP top 10. You go look.
Yeah.
An OWASP site is very good, but because you have defense, again, let's say SQL injection or XSS.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the SQL injection test cheat sheet. So you can go in there and there's a huge page with like hundreds of ways to do SQL injection, blind SQL injection. And it's all there. So you can go and read this and then you can try it.
That's super interesting.
But the defense, it's always the basics.
Yeah.
It's always check your inputs and escape your output. That gets you, like, in web development, it gets you 90% of the way.
Yeah.
But then when you put sysadmin on this, and if you have things like buffer overflow, then that gets complicated.
See, I don't even know what it is. Like, okay, it's a long time I played with that, but still, like, there's terms these days. I'm like, holy shit! I feel I'm getting old, and I'm only 41, So, but so really, you got involved in security what? Few years ago, 5 years ago?
No, it's let's say on the defense thing.
Yeah.
It's been something over 5 years.
Yeah.
I've been interested in it. It's been frustrating because most of companies don't want to invest in security. They don't think about it.
Yeah.
I remember that company I was talking that got bought. We figured out they had credit card and clear in the database. And I goes, we cannot keep that. But nobody wanted to change anything until they get an audit. Then we need to get rid of this.
Until they get forced. We face that all the time.
Yeah.
Until you really have a problem, you do not value the investment. Although you try to explain it as good as you can, like it's always something that is underestimated. And same thing for applying patches, updating, keeping your versions up to date. We still have some clients once in a while that we realize that, hey, you guys are still on PHP 5.4. Like, yeah, it's fine.
It's fine until they get hacked.
Which actually happened lately for us.
Yeah.
Randomly the guy got hacked, and we realized that the hacker had full access to the server, could do anything he wanted. So, yeah, I mean, this is something that seems to be only in the news with big companies, like we saw in the past year or two, like Under Armour with MyFitnessPal, or even recently, I think a bank here.
Desjardins.
Yeah, exactly. Got, but actually, that was an internal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not an hack, but still, you gotta control what your employees access.
Exactly.
Because I think he was a salesman or something like that. You should be able to access one client at a time, not dump the DB.
Imagine.
So yeah, and they say last week, I think it's every private, every person that's a member got their info leak.
That is pure irresponsibility.
Yeah,
I mean, when you get to that point, like, what did you fuck up along the way to get someone to have access to so many information, like one person that actually don't need to have
it's
access?
it's always the same thing. It's convenient.
Yeah,
So we have that too. Client like to do export of data to be able to look at it in Excel, and we need to train people that you give export permission only to people who needs it,
yeah,
and you need to audit everything because at some point it's going to be the news and we're going to look bad.
yeah. And
And we're not Desjardins. We're going to close if that happens.
imagine, wow. And what is? I mean, not necessarily one, but what is for you like the top mistakes or the top, um, I would say, stupidities that happen in PHP development that actually open the application to be vulnerable, whether it's the server side or the application side, especially these days with so many different developers, so many new, not necessarily. I mean, developers are in a lot of demand, and they're not necessarily all well trained, and because there's a big demand, all companies get them anyway, and
Yeah.
they try with them. So for me, that's one of the problem. But in your opinion,
If you talk about the mistake the dev makes, it's mostly, I think the one I see a lot is people outputting stuff without escaping it. Or they escape because the framework does auto escaping, but they don't understand that context make a difference. And you need to tell your framework because you don't escape HTML the same way you escape JavaScript or CSS.
yeah,
And if you do CSS like you do HTML, then you have a vulnerability right there. So that's a mistake that I'm the annoying guys at the office about this. I When I do merge requests, I look for these things.
yeah,
And if you look at OWASP top 10, I think number one is injections, so SQL injections, XSS, all these things.
yeah.
And as you said, the developers does not train in security. Most companies don't care until it's too late, so nobody look for that.
Don't fix it
Yeah.
if it's not broken, right?
Problem it's broken and we don't know about it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, and when you have an application, okay, there's so many people having their business online, right? And they make money out of it, whether it's an e-commerce platform or just a software, a SaaS product, whatever. And still, they do not have someone working on it constantly, whether it's weekly or monthly. They can go 6 months without updates or without work on it. How the hell can they know?
Yeah, you were talking about the guy who got the server on. How long did it took
Yeah,
before they find out about it?
yeah,
Could be years sometimes.
yeah, yeah,
You got somebody inside you don't know. They they leak all your data. It could be an hacker that do it for money, but it could be competitors too.
and probably I never look into that. That would be interesting actually to look, but I'm sure that on the black market you can probably, on the dark web, I mean, you can probably find sleeping. I mean, a bunch of server access with sleeping hacks in there. You can probably actually find that. So there's
Probably.
probably like sleeping cancer in a lot of servers, um, and people don't even think about. I mean, they don't know. They're not aware that their servers are actually compromised.
Yeah. I'm listening to some podcasts about securities,
Yeah.
and one of the stories was they were doing pen testing. They got into a server and they find out some other hackers were in there.
Huh.
So so until you really go for this, they're there, and as you said, they're probably on
Yeah.
sale on the dark web.
Yeah. But that's true. That's totally true. They actually the hack I was referring to, I'm pretty sure that it was there for a few months, and really the hackers started to look at it recently, and then we see in the logs like, okay, something's happening. Um, But before that, we had no clue even ourselves. Like it was there. I mean, sleeping there, hidden files. Like okay, unless you really audit the server deeply, you don't know that, and it's not a developer job, really, to really go deeply into the server and try to figure out if the server is hacked or if the application is hacked. And it's really two type of professional to me. Like although as developers we know some of the server stuff, um, you don't know everything.
I don't know. You need good network admin, and if you're a big company, you need some network security engineer. You need some
Imagine.
security engineer for your code. It's very expensive.
Yeah, but that's why most don't do it.
Yeah.
But which is the thing that's always surprised me is those large public companies that do have the money and still don't do it. And they just don't put the effort into it. Like we saw that in the past with clients who were 8 and 9 figures, and they still are cheap on
Yeah.
putting the effort on secure, making the application secure and the server secure. Let's have the sysadmin to have a look over the next day or two just to make sure. No, it's too expensive. Like, come on, you're making your money out of the web. Like and if you're on the web, you're accessible to everyone, right?
Yeah.
And still, it's totally underestimated. That blows my mind. That blows my mind. And
Look at Equifax that happened like 2 years ago.
yes,
And if I remember well, that was the server that wasn't patched.
imagine that.
So it's a known vulnerabilities that
And
got
they're
hacked.
huge,
And they're huge, and
They
they
have the
have
money.
so much data.
especially them.
Yeah. So
Especially them. When and for those who don't know, Equifax is credit check type
yeah,
of, they gathered that information, so they have a lot of data, and a lot of personal data. So it's fucked up. I've watched last year actually. I watch what is it called? There's a program in Toronto called Marketplace,
okay.
and it's super interesting because they really take the time to dig, and investigate, and they do their homework, and they I think it's after the Equifax thing. They went to they found someone. They got to the dark web. They got the data, and they started to go see the people and knock at the door, say, "Hey, do you know your info compromised? We bought it," and
For a few
that was
dollars.
that was disturbing,
Yeah.
super disturbing. Yeah, exactly, for a few dollars. And they spoke with a guy that actually sell such information. And the guy said, "I'm making way too much money for me to stop, even if I'm risking to go to jail." The guy was making like $10,000 or $15,000 a week. Why would he stop? Even if he goes to jail for a year or two, that's not me. Obviously, I would never trade that. But I can understand that.
Yeah. Especially you have the money. You just want to make more and more and more.
Yeah, that's it. And maybe actually our own information somewhere on the dark web. We don't know.
Oh, I know it got leaked. I
Oh,
know
you
it got
got? Yeah.
I got leaked by on the Desjardins leak. So
Okay.
but I've been buying credit monitoring for like a year and a half because
What do you use?
I use TransUnion.
TransUnion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have that too.
Yeah.
Actually, it's provided with my bank.
I pay for TransUnion, and I'm supposed to get Equifax free because of the Desjardins
Oh
link,
yeah.
but it never worked. So
Okay. Mm. Interesting. Interesting. So security side. Lots of developer, not so many capital put for security. So I'm assuming that, in your opinion, is the one of the major problem
it is.
in our industry,
Yeah.
right? What's the solution to that?
I think it's awareness.
Yeah.
I think one of the thing that I've read recently is you need to put a number on that. You need to be as a and I'm not a security expert, but the security expert needs to learn to communicate better. Say, hey, if you got a hack,
Yeah.
it's gonna cost you that. If your site got defaced, you look bad. You lose client. But if you lose if you leak personal data and you're a publicly traded company, you need to make a press community. You need to
You
a
need
press
to,
release,
yeah,
sorry, about that, and it's go, and then you lose a lot of money.
yeah. But you know, the thing with public companies is that they live quarter by quarter.
Yeah,
There's no long-term vision. It's like politics, right?
yeah,
You know, there's no politician that's really taking, I mean, very rarely that's taking a decision or a move in a direction that's going to bring value to the population in the next 20 years. It's always about the next couple of years.
yeah,
And in public companies, it's all about the quarter because the numbers has to follow for the next quarterly meeting. And I've heard stories like we had public clients in the past, some of them, and I've been close with some, and things I've been told are just completely crazy. And but also I've heard a few things like that. Some companies are aware that they do not put enough money and effort into security, so they actually, gather money, keep money, over the years. So when this happens, because it will happen,
yeah,
they will be fine. Plus the insurance and all of that, and it's just pure irresponsibility.
yeah. So maybe we need better laws,
Yeah,
but we have some laws. Some people have to be compliant with some OSI, but being compliant doesn't mean you're secure,
yeah,
because you can have all those report, all those things to do if you ever get hacked. But if you don't act first, you're still not safe.
exactly, exactly. What type of flaws do you think we should have?
I I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah,
I I think, but maybe higher fines whenever you leak personal data, and because it's all about that. It's all about the data.
yeah. It's protecting your customers.
Yeah,
So from the moment that you deal with personal information and you do not do all of what you can do, obviously, to protect them, there's a problem. But on the other hand, like it makes me feel that maybe if there would be such law, there would be too many gray zone because what means to do
yeah,
all of what you can do, you know?
yeah.
It's objective.
Plus, the lawmaker, they're not necessarily technical, so it's a tough one.
Yeah, well, that's another big subject. The non-technical people dealing with the technical people, and that is all over the place in every single companies. And and I had a conversation, I forgot with who about that, and it's actually like I see this with some clients too. Like big companies, decision makers want to have things moving, but the devs and all those, I mean, DevOps, dev, network, system, all of them say, well, we're doing the right things, we're working. Yeah, but we don't see anything evolving, you know? So
Yeah,
it doesn't look like it's hard work. But at the same time, there's a pressure to make shit done, to get shit done, right?
yeah,
So, and I've saw that recently where the team decided to pause what they were doing to do some front end stuff so the decision makers see some result
no,
and then they can go back to where they were.
yeah, and I think it's a good thing. As I have had people push a few times. So let's do a few weeks working only on technical stuff, and it doesn't work. The business people, they want to see result. They want to see value. They want money. So you have to push it in between, add some, and you have to make them understand that there's a value.
Yeah, that another thing I see often also is you develop an application with no specific requirements, right? You probably
Yeah,
saw
yeah,
many examples of that,
yes,
and but also because building requirement is super expensive, right? It takes time. You need to review, you need to modify, and even if you do that for months, you still have unknowns,
yeah,
right?
and you make mistakes.
And you do make mistakes, and then you build, and then you change. You have change requests. But the thing is, as you develop, the the path you're going on the architecture doesn't necessarily take into account the change request you're going to be doing in a few months. And one of the problems is that they do not, I mean, most people do not value refactoring some of your code base because it just doesn't answer that problem that you just changed. And that's why people end up with a lot of messy code over time.
And it gets longer and longer to deliver changes after the,
And then you have to go for a full rebuild.
yeah. But I've seen it the other way around, you see, too, where we're gonna build that, we know we're gonna have to build this, so let's make everything in a way that we can reuse, and then your system gets so slow and
Yeah.
and it's hard to predict the future. I'm a big believer, build it simple. If you know something gonna change, prepare for it, but keep things as simple as possible.
Yeah.
But every time you add something, think about it. If you do the same thing twice, okay, maybe the third time, now it's time to refactor.
Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. That's there's one client that we have. I'm really happy about that actually because we actually pretty much decide what we work on. I can basically say to tell the team, okay, you guys work on that feature while you're refactoring this. Then you do this, you refactor that. So we keep always like 20-25% of the time to readjust, some stuff. So that helps a lot in keeping the code base quite clean.
I'm a believer in the Boy Scout rule,
Mm-hmm.
where you have to leave the campsite in a better condition when you leave. So whenever you start working on a method or something, you refactor as you go. Maybe that method name is not good enough. Let's rename it. Let's extract some code out. Just little thing as you work, and that's how you keep your code in a better condition. I work in a very old code base.
Mm-hmm.
It's over 10 years old, so we have a lot of legacy, but we're trying to move, and it's hard, but we're trying to move and make everything better as we go.
That's a great analogy to if I mean, as a developer, to wherever you get in, try to leave it in a really good state.
Better. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
really good. Just improve, little improvement at the time.
Not worse.
Yeah,
Don't leave it worse.
yeah, because it's easy to say, oh, it's already messy. It doesn't matter. No, you can't, because then it gets worse. And
That is a thing that is a good segue because that is a thing that drives me nuts all the time. Like we see, and I don't know if I've saw that with lawyers too. It's not related, but lawyers, I saw them doing that too. But they get into the work, developers get into the code base, and in no time, that's shitty.
yeah,
That is messy. That is spaghetti codes. That is not. And I'm always just, at first, I'm like, okay, you must be right. I trust you. And over time, I ended up thinking, you know what? I feel that either you don't want to look into it and that's your answer, or you just don't know how to do it and that's your answer.
yeah. I think there's a lot of that's not the way I would have done it. Doesn't mean it's not nice.
Exactly.
And it's easy also to judge code that was built from like 2 years ago by somebody else, because you don't know the constraint they have. They had time constraint. They didn't know the tools enough. They didn't have the same tools you have, and and as we get experience, we get better too. So it's really easy to judge it. It's harder to fix it.
Yeah. And you can judge, really. Like, no one's, for example, is able to judge a relationship of someone. They're not in the bedroom,
No,
they have no idea.
yeah,
It's the same thing with that. You have to put yourself back in 3 years ago. Like you said, what tools was there, and all of the context of the moment, and which version was there. You cannot judge the PHP 7.4 capacity with PHP 7.0 or even just before.
yeah.
It just doesn't work this way. Doesn't work this way. And I think it's lack of education um, in the dev side. On the dev side, I mean, school doesn't teach you everything that you need to know. Actually, give you maybe some of the base, I'm kind of a big believer of learning on your own type of thing. Um, and school has really, well, probably about the same age,
Yeah.
and I don't know for you, but when I was at university, teachers sucked at the time,
I
big time, and the courses suck even more.
I did CJEP a little bit on university, but I
Yeah,
didn't finish. And I, yeah, some sucks, some were good, some I'm glad I went because
yeah,
I learned the basics, as you said. I understand
yeah.
basic, but I didn't learn security. I didn't learn Git. I didn't learn testing. All that I learned on myself. You have to want to learn it.
And you don't learn troubleshooting. You
No,
don't, you know, and all super important things. They get you to learn
but it's
how.
it's it's again it's context. In school, you have a semester to build a project, and you
Yeah,
have other classes. So you're gonna build something very small. You don't have to maintain it.
yeah,
So you and maintaining is hard.
yeah. How do you feel about, like, I see, for example, I've saw a lot of developers here, obviously, over the past 15 years, and one thing that is very common is that the great developers has been super passionate and started to code very young. Most average developers went to school to learn programming, did not really learn it at home, and then did not really become that great. I mean, okay, and it's good developers, but not as good as the one who started to code at 10, you know? And all their teenager time, they've been coding, learning, and doing things on their own. And there's a big passion. And actually, lots of the great developers that we have now, they still code at night and on weekends, and they keep learning, right?
So that's a tough one because not everybody has the luxury of being able to have a
Oh
computer at
yeah,
home.
yeah,
And
for sure.
as kids, I had my first computer, I'd say around 14, 15,
Yeah,
and we didn't have it for long. And then it's been years. So I finished high school. I went and worked in something else, and then I came back 7 years later. But then when I decided I was going to go back to school, I wanted to succeed. So I bought a book. And I started programming
yeah,
before I went back to school.
yeah, yeah,
And and yes, I did program a lot of at all,
yeah,
not as much with 3 kids. It's harder,
yeah, for
but
sure.
it goes by phases too. So
Yeah,
there's been a while where I was doing only that. Then I stopped. Now as I said earlier, I'm really getting into trying to hack stuff. So I do that all the time.
yeah, but you're curious about
Yeah,
it. You want it. You want to learn. Like on my time when I was in sysadmin, I had servers all over the place in my
yeah,
house, and those big freaking servers, like I had 3 U's and 5 U's and everywhere. And
noisy thing too.
yeah, no shit. And I was playing with that, and then I was trying new things, and I was very curious about it. And that's, I think, I really believe that's how I developed my troubleshooting
Yeah,
knowledge.
we got it easier now. You can just have a few VMs,
Exactly.
but it's easy now. I have an old laptop. I'm gonna install a few VM to build a lab to test penetration testing.
Yeah, at the time, like if you go back in 2001 or 2 when I was playing with those things, VM did not exist
No,
really, and I had a pile of servers, and if I wanted to try to interconnect them, okay, I'm gonna put 2 network cards in one, and network cards and network cable here, and
and a key VM switch to switch from one
oh
to the
yeah,
next
oh
one.
man, that was funny.
Yeah,
With the big freaking screen. Okay, I'm gonna go switch my cable,
yeah.
and so for people now, it's they. We, I'm kind of jealous, to be honest, to the 20 years old today, because it's super accessible. You can buy a cheap VN for $5-10 and just play with it a month. It's
Yeah,
not that expensive. You don't have to build a big computer, and you just have your little computer at home, and you can be playing with 20 VMs if you want.
but I think our the system today are way more complicated though
Yeah.
than when I was developing application on the desktop. That was a lot
Oh shit.
simpler, all in one
Yeah.
application. Now you have the front end, the back end, you have your servers, and then you add the AWS or the cloud to that.
Yeah.
Things get complicated.
That is.
It is.
That is, and but how? I mean, if you have let's say a nephew who is getting into programming, right, or she's getting into programming, and so what's the advice you give for keep the knowledge up to date and learn along the way and train and get trained along the way and you know
If it's a kid, so play with it, have fun. Depending of the age, I've
yeah
played with my son's Scratch,
oh
which is little thing you drag and drop commands, which is
yeah
pretty fun. I see if they're interested. If they're not,
yeah
most of the time is okay, Dad, let's start, and then okay, Dad, finish. I'm gonna go play. But but it's fun. And now my son's in school. He's doing. They're building a video game.
yeah
He's on fifth grade, and they're
oh
gonna
that's
build
great
yeah, that's fun. But if you want to keep on learning when you get older, then you have to invest a lot of time,
yeah
invest money if you can. I've done that because I read a lot of books, so I
yeah
buy books.
yeah
I like reading, but there's a lot of blogs online. There's our podcast. I'm a I'm a big fan of something called Nomad PHP. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
no
So it's like a user group,
okay
but it's online. So
okay
for I think it's $28 US a month, you get two meet up, one in the afternoon
mm,
because it's for the Europe and one for the US, and it's a 1 hour talk from a conference speaker.
that's interesting
So you pay $30 a month and you get access to very good content, and now you can have access to all the old content, and you get a subscription to the PHP Architect magazine. So
oh wow that's
all
cool
that for $30 a month.
that's cheap
And then you're gonna learn, and some subjects are not interesting to you, but some you'll learn something new that you might not use tomorrow, but in a year you got a need for it. You come back to it, you look at it, and then you gotta dig deeper because
yeah
1 hour is talk. It's just an intro.
it's it the knowledge is out there
Yeah,
you know in 93 94 when internet started to be the thing there was not so much. You know, we would
yeah,
search Pamela Anderson nude and naked, and that was
yeah,
the thing, you know.
yeah,
But now everything's on the internet, and the $20 you're talking about is really just to support the cause, probably,
yeah.
and it's not expensive for all the knowledge it's giving you.
Uh,
And
no, I've been paying for since they started,
yeah,
and it's worth it. I don't always have time to watch them, but I
yeah.
can go back later. And
Any other tools or any other website or
I
resources?
the same guy who started Nomad PHP
Yeah.
he gave it to somebody else, but now he has some thing that's called Daycamp for Developer.
Okay.
He do that 2 or 3 times a year,
Uh huh.
and it's a full day of conference. So it's the same thing. It's online. You have 5 talk during the day. I think it's $100 US, something like
Yeah.
that. And it's the same concept. You go in front of your computer. You can buy a team ticket. I don't remember the price, but you grab your team, put them in the conference room all day, and they learn stuff all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really worth it.
That's cool.
Other than that, go to conferences.
Yeah.
It's I really love conferences. You go there, you learn a lot, but you learn people, you meet people too.
What's your preferred one?
I looked. We have Kung Fu here in Montreal. That
Yeah.
was my first conference.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's
Yeah.
expensive, but it's worth it. It's all web
What
development.
was the name before Confu? I remember they changed the name, right?
It was PHP Quebec.
Really?
Yeah. So the group PHP Quebec was started by Yann Larivé,
Yeah, exactly. Okay, you're right.
and so and some other people.
Yeah.
But then they did the conference PHP
Yeah.
Quebec for a few years, and now like 7 years ago they rebranded to Kung Fu.
To Confu. Yeah.
Jan and Anna with him, Anna Filina, they rebranded to Kung Fu. Now because it's not only PHP anymore; it's all web development.
Do you know any great ones in, let's say, more west of Canada or in the US for the people that lives there, like that are also well known?
There, if you go in PHP, if I had the money, I would like to go to PHP Tech.
Okay.
They changed place. I think last one was in Saint Louis,
Wow.
but it's pretty big. It's organized by the guy that has the PHP Architect magazine.
Okay.
So there's that. There's a smaller one in Florida.
Hmm.
called Sunshine PHP. I went there once. I spoke there. It's amazing, and
Awesome.
it's Miami in February, so that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
In the West,
Of course.
there's some in West, but I don't remember the name.
Yeah.
I'd have to check because there used to be a lot of small PHP conference all over, and now a lot of them are closing. I think we had too many. So
Yeah. And the thing that is um, super important, obviously, if you want to get all of the benefits from going to conferences, and you need to, obviously, you don't go back home and then keep doing your things, right? You need to hack and do actions after that, like whatever you've learned there, you need to do something about it and try to actually apply it
yeah,
somewhere.
play with it. Just don't try to go back to work on the Monday and apply everything at work. That's not gonna work.
Yeah, suddenly the guy get there on Monday, hey, let's do this, and I
Yeah,
know that, and let's change this.
yeah. But yeah, play with it. And you said don't go back home. I think it's fun too. When I go to a conference outside of
Yeah.
Montreal, there used to be one in Toronto
Yeah.
called Tonight PHP.
Okay.
And the good thing when you don't go back home at night is you stay with the speaker, you stay with the other, and you keep talking,
Yeah.
and you learn to meet people. When you have questions, you can go on RRC on Slack or Twitter and ask questions to those people who worked on the tools you're using.
Yeah. So and now, because you're quite involved with the PHP Quebec one, so when did you got into it? What do you do now exactly? Like, what's your implications?
So the PHP Quebec user group it used to be organized by Yann Larrivé and
Yeah.
Anna Finilina, and they didn't have much time to it with Confu was taking
Yeah.
a lot of their times and their jobs and their kids.
Obviously.
So they're starting to doing it less and less,
Mm-hmm.
and so I took over from them 5 years ago.
Okay.
I took over, so now all I do is we meet every month on the first Thursday of the month, and my job is to try to get a speaker, get a location. You guys have been hosting us for the last
Yeah.
2 months, which is I'm really grateful for that. So, so that's cool, and just announce everything. Try to welcome everybody who comes and finding speaker. Finding speaker is the art.
Yeah. 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 That's probably why you speak a lot in them.
You see, I spoke at the last, but it's been a while since I
Oh yeah.
spoke. Because I did a few years ago. I did a few conference. I did a few talk here, and then
Yeah.
I got kind of burned out. So it's been a while. But now I want to start back because it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's fun.
Also, the speakers have something to share, obviously, right?
Uh,
Um,
but they don't have to be experts.
no, exactly.
That's one of the thing, and people are afraid. And I remember one of the best talk I've seen was a guy who was just learning a tool, and he said, "I learned that, I made that mistakes, and I'm still there." And there were people in the room who knew a lot more about the tools, but the talk was the guy has passion for the tool,
That's it.
and that shows.
Everyone has something to share.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone has something to share. That's the thing that we started to make and document a lot of what we do in this podcast, and almost a year ago, and we didn't know too much, like, okay, what are we going to share? But you know what, we work with so many different clients, we have so many different developers, we have so many different environment. Just right there, it's a lot of shit to share. And if you look at the amount of programmers or technician or tech lead or all of that together, just in the city of Montreal as an example, it's a lot of knowledge to share. Even from the junior to the very senior, they all have something to share. And the kids today that start in their career in programming, they have a different mindset than you and I had, than the 30 years old developer have. And we have a guy here, he's 22 or 23 years old. He's awesome, you know, but he's having a different mindset. Everything seems to be super easy for him. He get things right away. Like it's there's always some, I mean, different decades, different knowledge, and everyone has something to share.
And different level of experience too.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing that. I've been programming for almost 20 years now, and it's hard for me to put myself in the foot of somebody who's just starting. So to teach them, maybe it's better to have somebody who started a year or two ago,
Yeah.
because they understand what they're going through. For me, it's been a long time.
Yeah. So conferences, um, obviously, I guess online courses or news group or groups in general. Um, are you a lot about? I mean, in books. Like, do you
Yeah.
read a lot?
Yeah, I read books, and again, it goes in phases.
Yeah.
So I will read a lot of technical book. Then for a while, I'll just read novels, and
Yeah.
now I start back again reading technical books. And I like reading. I also follow a lot of people on
Yeah.
Twitter, and whenever they post interesting article, I bookmark them to read later in Instapaper, and I
Yeah.
have like 100 article I need to read. So if you post something today, I might read it in 2 or 3 weeks, but I'll read it at some point if it interests me.
My bookshelf is actually like that. I have all the books I've read, and the top shelf
Yeah,
is all the ones that I want to read eventually. And I have some in there for 3, 4 years.
that's a good thing. Now I read on Kindle,
Yeah.
so I don't need to buy in advance. So whenever I finish a book, okay,
Yeah.
what's the next one I want to read?
Yeah. I kind of like
And
the paper thing. Like,
yeah, I used to think like that too, but the Kindle is
yeah.
it's I take the subway,
Yeah.
and
Oh
when
yeah.
you have that big book and you're almost done, so you bring a second one and it's heavy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
heavy. Now I have so many books in my Kindle. So
Do you find that the technical books, let's say that have been written like 3, 4, 5 years ago, get kind of outdated along the ways?
depends of the book. If
Yeah.
you buy a book on a language, which I don't really do anymore, they get outdated pretty fast.
Yeah.
But if you want to read like 25 years old book like the Pragmatic Programmer or
Yeah.
the Mythical Man Month, they're 30, they're 25, 30 years old, and they're still valuable
Exactly.
today. So it depends of the book.
Exactly. But you know what? Writing a book is actually quite long.
Yeah,
So when a book is being written, and let's say it take a year or two, that was for the problem of that the person was having at the time. So now you're 1 year or 2 years later, and if someone buys it 3, 4, 5 years later, like you said, if it's about a specific programming language, yeah, it's probably going to be outdated.
yeah. But if it's about architecture, chances are it's
Yeah.
valuable.
Anything that you would want to add, would want to share?
No, I think
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Oh, cool. That's cool. Great. Well,
Cool.
that was cool. That was cool. Lots about security and training.